Nice to know with you guys.
I'm Jonathan Walters. I'm chairman of the Ghent Planning Board, and I'm going to have all the various members of the board introduce themselves right now.
I'm Martin Silver. I'm on the Ghent Planning Board.
Jeff Wright, Ghent Planning Board.
Dana Rosenstrike, Ghent Planning Board.
And Gaylord Chatham.
Dan Herrick, Chatham's Planning Board Chair. Mark Houston, Ghent Zoning Board Chair.
Lou Streeter, Ghent Zoning Board.
John Colante, Ghent Zoning Board.
Ed Gutterman, Ghent Attorney.
Cheryl Roberts, Village Attorney.
Stephen Piazza, Village Planning Board. Leo Conjure, Village Planning Board.
And there are other town officials here. You want to introduce yourself? Go ahead, sorry, go ahead, you guys do.
Aaron Brew, Ghent Planning Board. Larry Matches, Ghent Planning Board. Pat Prendergast, Village Engineer, Chatham.
Pete Monahan, Village of Chatham Planning Board.
And Miss anybody?
Carl.
Carl? Is it?
Carl, Engineering, Monahan.
Okay, I saw Linda back there. I know Larry's here. Tom's here. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, elected officials from the village and, okay.
Tom Curran, Mayor of Chatham.
Mary Ann Reed, Supervisor, Town again.
Linda Hess, Town Council, Ghent.
Well, I know you're back
I'm here.
there.
Village of Chatham, Trustee.
Wisely standing next to the window. Okay, who else we got?
I see Dave Chatton.
Dave
Oh, and George. I saw George. Yeah.
Trustee.
Good. I know you good. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Great. So, the ground rules here, guys, are pretty simple. We need you to be civil in your public comments. We're extremely interested in what you have to say, but I just ask you to be nice about it. Be brief. If at all possible, if somebody has made a point that you were planning on making, we understand that you may feel compelled to repeat it. There's a lot of people in this room. We could be here until Wednesday. So I really appreciate it. The board really appreciate it. When folks tell us something, after a couple times we get it, we listen, we understand your concerns. So I'm just asking, be brief, and if possible, try not to repeat yourself. And again, side conversations outside. So I'm going to read the, here comes the train. All right. So, Town of Ghent, Village of Chatham, notice of combined public hearing. Please take notice that there will be a combined public hearing to be held in Town of Ghent Planning Board, Town of Ghent Zoning Board, and Village of Chatham Planning Board relating to the application submitted by Chatham Associates of Albany LP for site plan approval to develop Price Chopper Supermarket 2595 Route 66, Ghent, New York, and relating also to subdivision and relating also to subdivision approval for subdivision of the adjoining medical lot subdivision. Property owned by Fairpoint Communications, and further relating to the request for a variance from the Town of Ghent Zoning Board relating to a setback for a utility building, a sign variance, and an interpretation regarding signage, and further with respect to site plan approval from the Village of Chatham Planning Board with respect to the portion of the subject property located within the Village of Chatham. This public hearing will be held on September 19, 2011, commencing at 7:30 p.m. at the Chatham Village Hall, Tracy Building, 77 Main Street, Chatham. Primary purpose of this hearing is for the boards to gather information in connection with review of all aspects of the project, including the review by the Ghent Planning Board pursuant to the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECR. This public hearing is preliminary to a further public hearing on these issues that will be held at a later date by each of these boards in connection with site plan approval, subdivision approval, and obtaining of any variances required for the project. So this is just the first of more public hearings. So what we'll do is we'll open this one, but we encourage you folks to keep sending us letters with comments, and there will be another round of public hearings. Before we open it up, I would like the Price Chopper folks to do a quick overview of the project, since there's probably folks here who know only marginally what's going on and what's going to happen. So why don't you guys go ahead and do that, and then we'll more up.
Good evening, I'm Mike Tucker from Infinity Engineering. We're the civil engineers on the proposed Price Chopper project. As Chairman Walters read in the notice, we're in front of
can't see
Oh.
this.
Yeah, but I think that turned that out that way. Yeah, we were pretty familiar with that. Yeah. Take it right up, yeah.
We're proposing to subdivide off approximately 7 acres of a 21-acre lot owned by Fairpoint Communications. This 7 acres is zoned to allow this use. This isn't allowed use. We meet all of the bulk requirements in the town of Ghent and the village of Chatham. The village line runs through this corner of the site. The minor variances we need are related to signage, the number of loading docks proposed, and the potential setback if we go with an on-site wastewater treatment plant. The site has a wetland running across the front that's under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers, and a wetland to the rear that's under the jurisdiction of New York State DEC. We've been working with them over the past couple of years. We've been working with them over the past couple of years to develop this site plan to get it to the point where it is today. We've also been working with the town and the village. The Army Corps of Engineers has approved this crossing of the wetland, and we have responded to all of DEC's comments regarding minor work in the buffer zone of the wetland to the rear. We're not touching the actual wetland, but we are doing some work in the buffer zone.
With what, I'm sorry, did you hear that?
Within the 100-foot buffer zone of their wetland towards the rear of the site. However, we're not doing any work in the wetland. We have received a letter from New York State Fish and Wildlife that says there are no endangered species or endangered species habitat on the existing site. So basically what we've come down to is this site plan, 45,000 square foot new Price Chopper supermarket with parking to the front of the site, although it's from the street frontage, it's to the side and to the rear. That was something that we worked through with the town to come up with a site plan that's not a typical retail development with the stores in the back and all of the parking towards the front. So that's basically what the site plan looks like as compared to the existing surroundings.
And there are sets of these plans. In fact, there are sets of more detailed plans both here at the Tracy and at the Ghent Town Hall if anyone wants to go in and take a very close look at these.
Are they online?
That's a good question. I don't think they are.
Why not?
Yeah,
We don't have them online unless the town or the village has put them on.
yeah. All right, Glenn, let's go.
This is just a little bit more of a zoomed-in view of that same 7-acre site, showing the proposed supermarket, the parking layout. We've been working with SHPO to develop this rail trail that provides some connectivity between the proposed rail trail to the south, coming up to the north. I should also note that we've committed to continuing across the frontage of the existing Chatham Plaza. However, to do so, we would need an easement from them because there's not enough room within the New York State DOT right-of-way there. We're proposing significant landscaping and buffering around this corner of the site to screen the loading docks. Internal landscaping is a pretty substantial landscaping package. Truck circulation the loading is obviously to the rear of the store, will come in 66, wrap around the store, load, and exit the same way. So there's a single point of access to the site. We've done a full traffic study that's been submitted, and we've been working with DOT on that. The only traffic mitigation that's currently needed is a northbound left turn lane into the site. And then this lane will taper, so there'll be a little bit of widening across the frontage. We've also taken that analysis a step further and analyzed it based on the Chatham Plaza expansion that we understand is currently proposed. That doesn't result in any less of a level of service. There would be no additional mitigation required for that. As we've discussed at the last meeting, we've come up with some renderings of the store, and we'll turn these around so that you can see them. This is a rendering of what the site would look like approaching from Route 66 from the south. The driveway coming in here, the store, the existing swale, the sign right at the corner, the drag. This is a view of the rear of the store, the loading area, as seen from the Chatham Plaza. Here you can see the proposed berm that we're showing across the rear of the site with a pretty substantial landscaping. And as Steve Duffy from Price Chopper will explain later, we've proposed these screening walls to screen the loading area and the compactor and the equipment behind the store. So the read of the back of the store is pretty continuous with the same materials, so that the trucks actually will not be visible on the loading. This is a view of kind of the northeast corner of the store as you're going down Route 66. Chatham Plaza being here, the entrance drive to the store being here. This will be what you see going southbound on Route 66. You can see the berm and the plantings along the side, and the articulation that Price Chopper is proposing to the side of the building, which is a pretty substantial change from just the standard brick facade.
Where Chatham Plaza is.
Can I have your name, ma'am?
Yeah.
Can I have your name? If you're gonna,
Susan Peterman, I just don't know where I am.
okay,
This is Route 66 here. This is looking at the side of the building. This
I'm
is
sorry,
where the
sir.
entrance
Can I
is.
have your
Chatham Plaza would be right here. Chuck Chisholm,
Thank you.
Director of Real Estate. Chatham Plaza would be back here. This would be the back of the building. So this is what we do here.
This is going to be difficult for everyone to see, but this is a request we had at the last meeting. We've developed a sight line from the historic house across the street towards the Price Chopper as outlined in the New York State DEC policy that just shows how there's very little impact from there. And we have a letter from SHPO saying that the proposed project will have no effect on any historical resources in the area. And that is also listed as well.
This also shows this is the proposed store, this is the existing store, this is the historic building across the street.
okay, so you gotta, excuse me, if you're gonna talk, you gotta go outside, because the room is acoustic to the room is terrible. So if you want to outside, take it outside. If you have a question, address one of the board. Sorry. We'll get it.
And this is a line down below the diagram, it's a line of sight looking from the house, what you would see with the trees or growth and the back of the building, which would be across the street on 76.
Can you turn that this way? The back of it?
It's the same, it's the same drawing.
Thank you.
Anticipated big crowd. I'll be brief. Just one other point that I wanted to make. We developed a pretty substantial stormwater management design system that we'll implement as part of this construction. That's in accordance with the New York State DEC regulations. Through a series of stormwater detention basins and an underground detention basin, the water, the runoff from the site after construction will actually be less than it is today under the existing conditions. So nothing associated with this project will contribute to the existing flooding that's seen out there. In fact, it will make it a little better because the runoff from the site is less than there is today through the implement, as I said, the implementation of those stormwater management basins and some underground storage. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
Steve Duffy was going to come up and talk.
Go ahead, Steve.
My name is Steve Duffy. I'm the Vice President for Store Planning and Design at Price Chopper. And this evening, we've brought our building elevation, again, address the crowd first. This is the proposal for a new store. It's a 45,000 square foot store. It's designed to be a LEED basis. It's to be certified under the USGBC. LEED stands for Leadership, Energy, and Environmental Design. Again, it's designed to be sustainable. It's highly energy efficient. We believe in those principles as a company. And the new store construction that we built for the last several years is based on these principles. We've worked very closely to develop these elevations satisfactorily so far. And they're based on a very similar design, but with enhancements that are specific to Ghent and Chatham. The store design is very similar to what you may see if you've had an opportunity to visit our new Lenox store, which is a 50,000 foot store. It has a very warm, inviting entrance. We've got stone on the exterior columns. The outside has a clap finish. We have a metal roof. That's our copper color. And as Mike pointed out, so that's the front elevation to the south. The north elevation is designed to screen any of the service activities we have along the rear. Our truck loading area, you see the wall has been raised and elevated to screen any kind of truck activity. We have other utilities in the back, a compactor, transformer. Those are also screened with walls. As Mike pointed out, what you don't see, this is the elevation viewed directly at the building face. Beyond the edge of the property line, you have an additional layer of screening with the berm and the additional landscaping. This is the elevation viewed from the east along 66, and again you can see the articulation of barn elements. Again, we've used really throughout the theme of the store design. This is the west elevation. We have a drive-through pharmacy as part of the design proposal for convenience. So our guests and customers will come in through the site, wrap around the back, and then be serviced with a pharmacy kiosk. So those difficult times when you really can't come into the store and the convenience of the pharmacy.
You want to swing that around?
Yeah. Again, this is the south and the front, the north elevation, and we have the east and then the west elevation.
This would be what would be see from Route 66. This would be.
This is broken down for a second. So essentially, that's this elevation. Take this one too. So that's that perspective. Again, from the northeast, the east, and then you have the north.
Can we see? We didn't get the chance to see both.
Can you do that? Can you do that?
Also, there's a series of small elevations on the bottom. That represents the current plan in place as an option for a treatment plant that we have on site. So it essentially shows the scale of the building, very small, and it will be self-contained. Again, matching the architecture of the building.
What else do you want to see?
The other picture.
The other elevation, you guys, that you showed.
Just to compare.
Yeah, there.
At the same time.
That's this elevation here.
All right, thanks.
You could leave these up now.
That's fine. Yeah.
And just briefly, the other board that we have just represents the project signs that we have as well, which is the primary building sign. We have non-illuminated placards that represent the various offers we have in the store. They're black and they've got a gold inlay. This is the small monument sign that we have that's illuminated downward. And this is the pharmacy sign and the 24-hour sign. This is an LED lit sign. Just I want to make one final point. Essentially, again, our existing store is 23,000 feet. The proposal here is for 45,000. Essentially, if you, again, go into the existing store, you'll see various departments throughout are fairly small, limited. gives us an opportunity in each of the areas to provide enhanced offerings throughout the store. Enhanced offers.
To provide enhanced?
Enhanced offers,
Thank you.
such as an enlarged bakery, an enlarged produce area, an enlarged meat area, an enlarged service seafood area, etc. throughout the store. Plus, for center of store, provide much more grocery. Matter of fact, we were at the store earlier, and someone had bumped into us and made some inquiries, and she was very pleased to hear that we would be enhancing the grocery and frozen and all the other areas quite significantly, which means, again, you have a greater opportunity to variety throughout the store.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, I just I'm trying to just brief. Chuck Chisholm, I work Director of Real Estate for Price Chopper. There's been a lot of question as to why we're looking at a replacement as opposed to enlarging the store in place. This past year, we enlarged 2 stores, one by 8,000 square feet, one by 10,000 square feet. Those stores started off at 40 and 46,000 square feet. We also replaced one not that far from here, and I would welcome everybody to take a ride over to Lennox, where we replaced a 32,000 square foot store with a 50,000 square foot store. And we're in the process down in Binghamton of replacing a 50 with a 52. It's a very older concept store that had a lot of issues, and we replaced it again on site. When we can when we can work on site, we work on site. To double the size of the store, it creates a lot of difficulties. It's very expensive. There's a lot of disruptions in the business. Also, in this case, we were going to end up with a very long and shallow store. We weren't going to be able to get the alignments and the departments in that we wanted to put in that people would expect if you go over to a Lennox store today, and people expect from the supermarket today. Even the Lennox is 50, and this was going to be 45. Likewise, we're going to end up with a very long and narrow parking field. And if you can look at a new concept, we work with a single entrance. We don't have the long dual entrances with the long corridors up front anymore. So you'd end up with a lot of parking that's very inconvenient. It would be a very long walk to get to the store. And for those reasons, it makes a lot more sense also for us to try and get into all the LEED concepts and sustainability concepts that we include in the new stores. The best way to do that was to do it with a new facility. We could do it here, but then we'd have to, as an enlargement of site, then we'd have to rip the store down. It would allow us to push it back and build the box that we feel would be the appropriate box. Then you wouldn't have a supermarket in town for 9 months, 10 months. It makes a lot more sense to do the replacement. The economics work a lot better for that deal. You go one day from the old store, the next day to the new store. Again, as I said, we get to incorporate all the new concepts, all the new departments. We are also on the lease here through 2019 with options through 2042. We have a responsibility for the store. It's our intent to lease that store out. We'll be successful doing it. I'm not going to promise you that somebody's going to move in there the day after we move to the replacement store. Should we be successful in getting the approval for that? But we've been in business for a long time. We own a lot of our properties. We master lease a lot of our properties. We have people that deal with this on a regular basis. We work very closely with the brokerage community. Once we know what our timing is, and once we know that we will be going forward, we're going to hit the ground and start running, and we're doing everything we can to put somebody in there. And it's in our interest to do it. There's also been a lot of talk about what happens to the existing tenants in the shopping center should we go next door. The truth is, we're going 150 feet away. We're going to build a bigger store. We're going to keep the traffic on that side of town. We're going to bring more traffic and more business, and it's going to be beneficial to all those businesses. We've offered to put a connector road in. Should we be successful, we'd like to do that, and really make it a continuation of the same shopping center, and you'll get the traffic back and forth, and it shouldn't be a disruption to anybody. This is not like you're building a shopping center a mile or 2 miles away with a lot of other satellite stores that will steal that business and siphon the business off from the shopping center. We are only building a supermarket here. We're not building satellite stores. We're not building competing uses for the stores that are in the existing shopping center. And I guess the only other thing I would close with is, probably about 20 years ago, there were similar discussions going on in the village. I don't think they were as contentious back then, but people have shared with me that there were discussions about building this mammoth store in a new shopping center on the edge of the village. Back then, in fact, Price Chopper, I'm not sure if we're still operating at that point, but we had an 8,000 or 10,000 square foot store in the village. And we were going to build this big 23,000 square foot brand unit. And there's a lot more concerns and a lot more issues going on, but we're basically talking about the same properties, the same hydrology, the same issues out there. We're looking to take that 23,000 square foot store and bring it up to date today. And that's what I have. All right, thank you.
Motion to open the public hearing. Excellent.
From every board, we do it as we open the public hearing.
This is a joint hearing, you're all together.
All right, so who wants to go first? Linda or George or anybody you guys want to ask? Anything? Okay, you're good. All right.
I know there's a question about, clearly there's a question about how much of the material related to this project is online or is going to be online. Can we get an answer to that question, you guys? Will folks be able to pull up info on this project online? Can we get PDFs or whatever? I mean, how might we facilitate an electronic distribution of the details of all this?
Do you have a website or something with the town?
Yeah.
Then we'll work something out.
Okay, so we'll figure that out.
So we're going to make it clear if it's going to be on the town again?
Just assume it'll be on, I don't think it will, it'll be on the town again.
Will it be on the Price Chopper site?
Excuse me?
Will it be on the developer site?
I don't know.
Will it be on the
Will everything
developer's
be
website?
on the developer's site?
You'll be able to get it through us. So.
Well, there should be, know what I'm saying, if the developer is proposing something
That's up
at the scale.
to them. I mean, you guys want the information, we'll work with them on getting it to you through, yeah, that's all I can promise. Okay, George. Yeah, George.
My first and biggest concern here is right now we could see every big storm, the storm water from the village of Chatham goes to that corner, right at the corner of that property and stops.
Yep.
What in this project is being done to widen that channel and clean it out down the line so that the storm water currently going there and the storm water off the site travels better down to the creek and Ghent?
You raise a good issue, George. We can't answer that tonight, but we appreciate your comment.
Dan Kaczynski. This is Norm Feinstein, who's Vice Chairman of Hampshire Companies, which own existing Chatham Plaza. I'm here with Bill Better, Doug Clark, Clark Engineering, and Barry Herbold, who's an appraiser, who's going to talk a little bit about the values. I want to hand something up for the record, and I'm going to ask your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, because I want to read a short letter I generated. Some people didn't get it. It frames the issues, because there's a misunderstanding among some people as to why we're here tonight. But what I want to hand up to you is a series of exhibits. I'm going to give it to each chairman. It's going to take a few minutes. I'm going to give it to you right now. The first letter basically deals with the transcript of what happened at the public hearing on June 20th, where there was approximately 90% people in the community expressing points of view. I'm going to hand these out to you. I'd like to read a letter from May, and I'm going to turn it over to everybody else. Okay, thanks. All right, here's a letter on behalf of us. It's our position that this is not all about Price Chopper. It's about the community. It's about the tenants. It's about the people at the Chatham Plaza. So I addressed this letter. I sent it in on Friday. I'd like this part of the record. It reads as follows. It's addressed to Dear Planning Board members and interested participants. Monday night's public hearing on the application of Chatham Associates of Albany LP for new Price Chopper supermarket represents a critical step in the Planning Board's review process. To date, there has been no public hearing associated with the project, nor there hasn't been any seeker determination. On August 24th, 2011, I forwarded to you a letter from our office and a report from Clark Engineering pointing out significant environmental issues that have not been addressed adequately, if at all. Since then, it has come to our attention that there is a perception that this is a done deal and that approval of the project is imminent. I respectfully ask the boards to consider that to date, there has been virtually no public comment or analysis on what this 4-acre, 45,000 square foot structure, whose rear faces the village of Chatham, will have on community character. The applicant's documents, which have been submitted, are devoid of any meaningful consideration or analysis. The highest court in the state of New York is the Court of Appeals. In the case of Chinese staff versus City of New York, the court stated that community character is on its own an issue that must be examined during the seeker process. In particular, the impact that a project may have on existing community character, with or without a separate impact on the physical environment, is a relevant concern in an environmental analysis, since that statute includes those concerns as elements of the environment. In two separate appellate division cases, which reviewed the denials of applications for a new Walmart and a new Home Depot by two separate unrelated boards, both the appellate division 3rd Department and 2nd Department concluded that the negative impacts on the community character were proper considerations in the denial. In the Walmart case, the court found that given the location of the project, situated at the gateway into a community known for its rustic nature and striking scenery, that notwithstanding efforts to screen the store and parking area, the board could properly find that it impacted on the character of the community and that the project would nevertheless bring about a noticeable change in the visual character of that community. In the Home Depot case, the Mount Pleasant board denied an application for Home Depot to shoehorn a development into a location that was out of character with the surrounding area. The court agreed with the planning board, which found that the project would bring about a noticeable change in the visual character of the area, and the change would be irreversible. In each of the above cited cases, the board carefully considered the potential community impacts of the proposal and made findings consistent with community character, denying the projects. In the application before the town of Chatham and Ghent planning boards, the village of Chatham, the applicants have not even addressed community impacts, let alone analyze them. The existing community character of the village of Chatham and this part of the town of Ghent is best described as being a quaint, rural, scenic community. In this case, the proposed new price chopper will result in a large vacant building at the Chatham Plaza, the elimination of an existing open space, as well as a visual impact resulting from the rear of the store with all of its unattractive features permanently facing the village of Chatham. In essence, the village of Chatham will be looking at docks and dumpsters. In addition, Price Chopper's abandonment of the Chatham Plaza will likely cast a dark shadow on the entrance to this quaint and historic community. This shadow effect will also damage the economic viability of the existing tenants, potentially result in additional vacant storefronts.
Is there anything in here that is related to fact?
We intend, through our presentation, to establish all of this.
Right now, all I'm hearing is surmise about potential impact for this project. And nothing.
Let me skip to the next section.
Okay, please.
What we're talking about here is you have an opportunity. This public hearing tonight.
We are more than clear on our response. We don't need your help.
We would like to hear it.
Why do you gotta be so rude?
I threatened to throw anybody out of this room that interferes. There are rules that have to be followed. If you don't like them, go to your legislators and change them. But at this point in time, we're sticking by them.
May I finish? Well, I need two more paragraphs. The inevitable result will be a decrease in the assessed value of the plaza and an increased tax burden on the rest of the community. These potentially devastating impacts on community character must be examined. In this regard, Mr. Herbal, a qualified appraiser, is going to be here to address some of those issues tonight. Moreover, there are serious physical and environmental issues which must be addressed in much greater detail. The recent flooding of the proposed Price Chopper site emphasizes the importance that the boards take a hard look at all these issues at this time. The recent and regular flooding of the Trusco site, notwithstanding the belief that the water issues were addressed, underscores the importance that this be studied in much greater detail. As of the date of this letter, I'm advised that the applicants were still working on their site plan and engineering details. Surely this is insufficient for a meaningful community review. Finally, the threshold to require an environmental impact statement is very low. Here, the applicant would prefer the planning boards avoid a detailed environmental review before it even begins. However, the law in New York is crystal clear that if the action may, not will, if it may include the potential for at least one significant environmental impact, a positive declaration must be issued, and the completion of an EIS must be performed by the applicant. That's our position in this case. There has to be a greater environmental study. Finally, Chairman Walters, I need to say this, and I say this very respectfully. I understand completely that the town of Ghent has worked on this process for almost 2 years. But I would say this, and it's in my packet. We've heard some chatter, and when we finally reached out to the community, most of the people in the community didn't even know about this proposal. We've heard people say that you have indicated that this is a done deal. I don't know whether you said that or not. I'm only going to say this, and I'm going to ask you to look at your own conscience.
We had an email exchange about this that you can
But
share.
I want to put it on the record if I may, because I want to be very clear about
Would
it.
you put my response on the record?
Yes, you said it's about as close to being to Jupiter, and that's great. But all I'm saying on the record is this. The case law in the state of New York is clear, and we can all make predispositions on cases. If anybody has predetermined this application as a planning board member, it's ground for recusal. The case law is cited in my packet. I just want to put you on notice. We appreciate your hard work. We know you're volunteers. The community is very concerned. We're very concerned. Everybody keep an open mind. And with that, I want to turn it over to the other people. Thank you for giving me a chance to read that letter and put our comments on the record. Thank you.
So I lived in the village for 9 years with my family, my 5 children. We love it here.
Well, I'm Rob Ligonia. I just came to Chatham a year ago and opened up Ligonia's. I bought it from Labella's. My children have gone to school here since their whole lives. I've been up here since 1972. I went to Chatham School. Yes, I have a business, and yes, this is going to greatly impact my business. And that's not the only reason why I'm here. I live in this community, and this is our community. It's not Price Chopper's community. And it's important to me that everybody here has a voice. And no one is looking, in my opinion, for Price Chopper not to expand, but I think that the most important thing would be that they at least come to the table and sit down and try to make this work within our own plaza. We don't need to expand and build a new plaza and have a blight in Chatham where we have an empty, vacant plaza, which is what's going to happen. I realize that Price Chopper has 8 years left on their lease, and they're going to pay those 8 years, and that's very honorable of you. But you're not going to fill that store in Chatham that easily with 23,000 square feet in this economy. It's not going to happen. The other end of the store, which is the movie gallery, has been empty for 5 years. That's only 4,000 square feet. We can't fill that. So what we're going to end up with is everybody that's in the plaza, there's a couple of tenants now that don't have leases that want to pull out if they leave. And to me, it's going to be a blight on Chatham. And is it going to affect my business? Of course it's going to affect my business. But we're at a point now, hopefully, that we've become a destination. I want to clear up something else that's important to me, that before Price Chopper stated that they couldn't move, and when I came to Chatham, I went to the landlord and said, I will move. I'll move to the end. That'll give them the opportunity to move down, and which would make it something that would work. And I asked Price Chopper to look at that a little harder than to say, oh, it's going to cost us money economically. Well, it's going to cost everybody economically. Is it going to be something where it's going to be difficult for the customers because you're going to be renovating it? So what? We're a small community. We'll work with you guys. And for you to say that it's an inconvenience, we can close this store and move there and people are going to leave, nobody's going to leave. We need your store in Chatham, and we'd like you to stay in Chatham. But to say that there's no impact, I mean, I took this picture and the day of the storm, and it didn't come out as well as I'd like, but it says this issue requires a full environmental impact study. Ducks are shown swimming in the proposed Price Chopper. I took this picture. Everybody that knows me knows that I wouldn't do anything that wasn't true. And I'll gladly pass this around. There's a family of ducks swimming on that piece of property that shows there's a lake in there during that storm. And all the ducks are in here. I'll be happy to pass this around if anybody wants to see it. The other thing, as they talk about, is what they did in Lenox. And here's the picture. I took this picture as well. Here's the new Lenox Price Chopper. And that's what 4 acres of blacktop is going to look like in our community. And the best picture to me is this is the Price Chopper that they abandoned and vacated in Lenox. And you tell me how you would like to see that in our community? I don't think so. So this is the actual picture. And this is, if you've been to Lenox, the new Price Chopper was built over here, and the old Price Chopper is sitting right here. It's basically across the parking lot. So this is the new one, and this is the old one. So, and they talk about a store that's their new green store, and they're trying to do all these things for Chatham. This is their new model, obviously, that they use everywhere. It's not just for Chatham. And with that, I just ask that the board please look at the environmental review and make sure that we at least do a full environmental review so that the impact on the community is diminished and that down the road we don't all say, why did this happen?
I guess my main concerns, or our main concerns, are that we're really turning a 45,000 square foot store, we're smashing it sideways into a wetland area. It seems to me to be against the comprehensive plan of the town, its protection of our community and our way of life. Our 500-year floods are happening all too frequently. The wetland area, which will become 4 acres of blacktop and 1 acre of store, that area currently serves as an overflow of water that streams down the hill from the Little League field and from Kane Avenue. We've all seen it. Where's all that water going to go? What about the habitat and the animals that live there now? I think a full environmental study must be done around some of that. I live 3 houses away from the current plaza. My home is my family's greatest capital. What will happen to my property when I live next door to an abandoned plaza and there's commercial sprawl down the street? Will my backyard be peaceful? Will I be able to see the stars, or instead will I hear the noises associated with loading docks and garbage dumpsters? I want to know about the lighting issues. I'm concerned about the parking lot lights. What will be the impact on the increased traffic on our roadways and in our neighborhoods? I worry for my neighbors and the businesses in the current plaza and in our community. Expanded departments in that store are going to affect every business in this town. With 8 years remaining on the Price Chopper's lease at that location, we can be positive that that storefront will be deserted for years to come. Will my neighbors lose their livelihoods? It seems likely in a deserted plaza. The economics work for Price Chopper, but will they work for our community? Village taxes are high now and unaffordable for many. What are the tax ramifications of the proposed new store, which is located outside of village limits? Will village taxpayers need to make up that shortfall? There are simply too many questions and issues which must be examined. I would respectfully request that both the Town of Ghent and Chatham Village Boards take the time to listen to constituents. Please consider all the ramifications of relocation and the damage it will do to our community.
My name is Barry Herman. I'm President and CEO of Empire State Appraisal Consultants in Kinderhook. And I was asked to appear here this evening on behalf of the Hampshire company, the parent owners of the shopping center. I'm probably the only one here who doesn't have an opinion pro or con. I was asked to determine what the impacts would be if Price Chopper were to go ahead and build a proposed store. What would happen to the Chatham Plaza? Just by way of background, I've been a real estate appraiser for over 40 years. I've lived in Columbia County for 40 years, and I've testified numerous times in various courts as an expert witness. First, some background. You've already heard that Price Chopper controls the present building through a lease that has 8 years remaining on it, plus another 24 years in options. If Price Chopper controls the store through its lease, it's certainly not going to sublet it to another supermarket for reasons of competition. It just doesn't happen. Some examples of that are, if you look at former Eckert's or Rite Aid's, drugstores often put in deed restrictions or lease restrictions prohibiting the sale of pharmaceuticals. One can see this at the former Curry Plaza in Rotterdam, where Price Chopper purchased the shopping center after 5 years of litigation involving a proposed Hannaford supermarket. Price Chopper later donated the property to the town, but stipulated that it could not be used by a competing grocer. It's difficult to rent a large space of 22,000 square feet, particularly in the town of Chatham, and particularly during these economic times. For example, in 2 years ago at 1892 Central Avenue, Price Chopper moved from its existing store into the new building in 2008 at the same plaza. Their former store remains empty today. Many of you are probably familiar with the Ward bookstore on Wolf Road in Colony, which is arguably the busiest retail location in the capital district. That 30,000 square foot facility has been vacant for 3 years, and the owners have been unable to find a tenant for that space during that time. The former Grand Union on Route 9 in Rhinebeck, just north of the fairgrounds, has been empty for well over 12 years. The former Grand Union on Route 9 in Hyde Park, just north of the Culinary Institute, has been vacant for well over 10 years. Another local example is the Grand Union on Route 7 in Brunswick, which has been dark for quite some time. Now, I was asked what happens when there's an extended vacancy of an anchor tenant such as Price Chopper in a strip shopping center. Shopping centers with large vacancies tend to become lighter due to loss of rents, reduced rents, and less cash flow available for maintenance and repairs. Right now, Chatham Plaza has about a 10% vacancy rate. If Price Chopper leaves, 60% of the center will be vacant. If that happens, the first ones to suffer will be the satellite tenants, who will experience reduced sales volume because of reduced customer traffic that was formerly attracted by the supermarket. Satellite tenants in shopping centers can afford to pay rent based on the sales volume. The lesser the sales volume, the less rent they can afford to pay, and vice versa. If a satellite tenant, and bear in mind we're talking about 4 locally owned businesses here, excluding the Dollar Store. If they suffer decreased volume, then they're going to seek to negotiate lower rents. And again, this is particularly true in this economy. I can give you one example of a large regional tenant, Vostok's department store in Park Center, which recently negotiated a lower rent due to its decreased sales volume. And in fact, at the Chatham Plaza, the Dollar Store has what is known as a co-tenancy clause in its lease. And that allows it to cancel its lease in its entirety if the supermarket anchors goes dark. So there's a possibility that the plaza will lose 2 tenants if Price Chopper leaves, and the vacancy rate would then be 70%. Because shopping centers are purchased by investors seeking monthly cash flow, reduced rental income translates into reduced property value, and reduced property values translate to reduced tax assessment. When a tax assessment is reduced, it does not mean that the village collects less money. It simply means every other property owner in the village has to pay a little more to make up the difference. So there's a potential that every property owner in Chatham could be financially impacted if the Price Chopper store remains vacant for an extended period of time and receives a lower tax assessment. A local example of this is the Grand Union Shopping Center, or I should say the former Grand Union Shopping Center in Croatia, which at the time it was occupied by the predecessor, TU Market, had a tax assessment of $11,250,000. After that supermarket went dark, the assessment was subsequently reduced to $4,950,000, a more than 50% reduction, representing in excess of $100,000 in taxes. Keeping with that example, local residents in Kinderhook and Galatia were somewhat fortunate that Ocean State job lots eventually occupied the former grain handling space. However, a retailer such as Ocean State does not draw the amount of traffic that a supermarket does because it does not sell necessity goods. So, since Grain Union left and Ocean State moved in, we've seen satellite tenants such as the liquor store, eye doctor, movie store, and the Northeast Health Medical Practice vacate the premises. So, in summary, when a major supermarket anchor goes dark, negative impacts can significantly affect the property owner, the tenants, local government, and the community character at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Lisa Light Rugen, and I have a very simple question.
Sorry, Lisa.
Sorry, Lisa Light Rugen, R-U-G-E-N. I just have a simple question for Price Chopper. Why?
Will you address us?
Sorry. I guess the question is that Chuck, I was glad that he said he was trying to address the question of why do they feel the need? But the only question he didn't answer is, do they expect to make more money? And I understand that maybe they're expecting to save money in the environmental issues and making more energy efficient. But I mean, our population, as far as I know, is not growing. We're decreasing the size of our schools. So I'm assuming that our population is going down. And I'm just concerned that we have 2 new extra banks whose parking lots are empty. So is this another one of these issues where they're opening up a bigger store thinking they're going to make more money, but how could they? We aren't any bigger, are we? So that is only my only question.
Yeah, this is supposed to be fun. John McGowan is my name.
Who said that?
More fun than TV. I've lived in the Hamlet in Ghent for about 26 years. I grew up in Chatham, so I'm a local guy. I'm not a native. Born in Massachusetts. But anyway, I think there needs to be a new price chopper because there aren't enough what they call facings in the current store. In other words, if I want the ginger ale I want, or I want the certain cereal I want, half the time I've got to drive over to Galatia, which is 20 miles round trip, to get it at the Hannaford.
Please, people, be polite and be...
Well, that's the importance to me. Now, there are real issues, and George Graham brought up one before. Water flowing and the sewage issue and all these other things. Tax problems in the village, a lot of local governments got to get involved. I understand that. But I urge that the boards approve a new standalone price chopper to be built on whatever land they come up with. And I don't understand how them moving 100 feet down the road and offering to build a connecting road to the current plaza is going to put out of business the only dollar store in the town, the only storefront hairdresser in the town, the only Chinese restaurant in the town, I mean the village, and a very popular liquor store with convenient parking. I don't understand why moving 100 feet is going to put those people out of business. Other people have facts and figures to argue with that, but so be it. So put me on record as being for the new price chopper, and if there is an eyesore at the southern end of this village, it's been there for quite a while. It's called the Chatham Plaza. Now that's my aesthetic. So that's it.
Hi, my name is Doug Clark from Clark Engineering. We've reviewed the information that's been submitted by the applicant. This project's been going on now for, it's coming up on a couple of years, so there's quite a pile of information. In terms of where we are in the process, site plan review that was discussed primarily in the town of Ghent, but there's also a little corner in the village of Chatham. There's very specific criteria under site plan review. And really at this point, as the applicant stated, other than a couple minor variances, this plan complies with most of those specific specific checklist items under site plan review? Do they have enough parking places? Is the building less than 35 feet tall, etc.? I would just like to explain where we are in the process. Really the most critical decision point in this whole process as to whether this proceeds and it does become a done deal, or whether we really take a hard look at this project and address the concerns of the public, has to do with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And the purposes of that act is to balance the needs of the applicant. You know, in this country, they've run their numbers, and whether we agree or not, they've determined to make more money, they need a bigger store. So, you know, that's their stated need as the applicant. But that's not the be-all, end-all, and that's why SEEKR was enacted. The purpose of SEEKR is to balance the needs of the applicant with other environmental considerations. So, in accordance with that process, they filled out Part 1, it's an environmental assessment form. The next step in this that I would urge you all to follow very closely is Part 2 and 3. And that's where the lead agency, which just by way of background, some people might not know this, there was some discussions back and forth as to whether the village or the town should be lead agency. The village acquiesced to the town, so the town is the lead agency under SEEKR. So they're going to make a Part 2 and Part 3 evaluation under SEEKR, and that's going to determine whether there needs to be an environmental impact statement or not. Now, Chairman Walter criticized Mr. Tudzinski about not stating specific facts, but really the burden of proof is on the applicant. The applicant is supposed to be presenting the facts and studies that can then be reviewed by the public and by interested parties and agencies. In the Part 2 evaluation, there are thresholds that the state has provided, and the assumption is that if it triggers those thresholds, then there is potentially a large impact. And when you go through these thresholds, a maybe is answered as a yes. In other words, if you're not sure about something, and you say there may be a potentially large impact, then you should answer yes, there's a potentially large impact. So I've taken the liberty and submitted a letter that's in the board's package of going through that Part 2, and these are the potential impacts and the thresholds that have been triggered by this action. So impact on land, the threshold is where there's construction, where the water table is less than 3 feet. There's a lot of parts on this site where the water table is very close to the surface during spring, and it doesn't even need to be a 100-year storm. There's other areas where it's very shallow depth to groundwater. Construction that will occur for more than 1 year. Their EAS says it's going to be a 2-year construction project. Impact on water. The site contains a protected water body. This site contains both Army Corps and federally regulated wetlands. We work on site plan applications ourselves, and I know that DEC takes it very seriously when you encroach on the 100-foot buffer. Generally, the purpose of a 100-foot buffer adjacent to wetlands is to protect it. But the only way that they could shoehorn this plaza into that site, that 7-acre site, was by encroaching on a number of wetland buffers. They're building an artificial wetland on the other side, which is supposed to mitigate those impacts, but those don't always work. There's the Army Corps wetlands in front, and there's an interesting question, and actually in this case, maybe the applicant is being too considerate of the Army Corps wetlands, because the Army Corps wetlands are what we otherwise might refer to as the moat in front of this site. What really should happen, and has not been addressed in any of their plans, is they should increase the size of the culvert under the driveway to the fair point, and they should clean that channel out to allow that water to flow so it doesn't back up all the way to Payne Avenue. None of their analysis has considered the wider drainage area that's being affected here. So in other words, this drainage area that we're talking about comes from the Payne Avenue, the Little League Park, Borden Pond, that whole area. They have not evaluated any of that watershed. They've only looked at the very narrow scope of the runoff from the developed portion of the site. And so that's the kind of further analysis that requiring an environmental impact statement would force the applicant to undertake. And we think it's really critical at this point. Impact on transportation. It's adding another busy intersection that's right on across from and not too distant from the Payne Avenue intersection and the existing entrance to the plaza. They have studied that. I think the public is looking for more information. We're trying to study this very closely, and I just heard tonight for the first time that there's been additional traffic analysis that has not been made available to us. So I think it's hard to come up with specific facts to challenge this application when some of the information hasn't been forthcoming. Impact on growth and character of community or neighborhood. This is a threshold that's written right into seeker, and these are all quotes that I've been reading. It's action will conflict with officially adopted plans or goals. Well, the Village of Chatham has a comprehensive plan, and they're looking at smart growth, not sprawl. They're looking at pedestrian-friendly communities. I think that there's the potential. We don't have to say, yes, this is definitely going to be in conflict, but it's the type of thing, again, that the threshold's there. That means we need to take the harder look at it under the seeker process. Is there public controversy related to the potential adverse environmental impacts? I think the crowd here speaks to that quite simply. So when you go through that part 2, you really have to only identify one potentially large impact. And we've identified all these potential impacts. Then in part 3, you decide, well, how significant are those impacts? And in evaluating the importance or significance of those impacts, the seeker process again provides some guidance. And under that guidance, they should be considered important when the impacts are irreversible, which will be the case here, where they have regional consequences. So we're really talking about changes to the character of, not just the Village of Chatham and Town of Ghent, that, encompasses more than one municipality. Certainly 2 municipalities in that whole stretch of road. You might consider it a slippery slope to ending up with, Route 9 in Greenport. And the divergence from local needs and goals, and that's clearly the case here. And finally, whether there are known objections to the project as it relates to the impacts, and I think the record's going to show that. So I guess I'd like to say that based on our analysis, it's clear that the lead agency, Town of Ghent, we would certainly, we provide consulting services to planning boards, and it would be our advice, as they asked if they were a client, that they really should require a full environmental impact statement for this project. The other thing, there's 2 things that does. First of all, absolutely, the public should have access to this information. And under the seeker process, that will be required. Projects that are undergoing environmental impact review, the applicant has to get that information out there in a web-based format so the public can stay involved. That's really the purpose of the seeker, and one of the huge benefits is to involve the public, certainly more than they have been over the last 2 years, because really you should be part of this balance between the applicant's need and the environmental issues. The other thing that seeker does is it really requires the applicant to take a hard look at alternatives. And this is a somewhat unusual case in that there's a really good alternative, and that is expanding at the existing plaza. That plaza can be expanded to equal the square footage, although the layout is different and might not be the ideal. But those are the kind of things that you study further in seeker. And that alternative is going to have none of the impacts. It eliminates all of the impacts. It eliminates building in buffer areas. It eliminates Army Corps wetland impacts. It eliminates impacts to stormwater. No more paving is required. So that in of itself is really one of the main advantages of requiring an environmental impact statement, and that is to really do a thorough analysis. Are there alternatives that still get the applicant what they need, but have less impacts to the environment? And finally, you know, I've said this before, but I just feel compelled to repeat it. Price Chopper has said that this is going to be, they're going to build a LEED certified store, that they want this to be leadership in energy and environmental design. Well, the first principle of LEED is, you know, you don't pave 4.1 acres of green space when you can accomplish the same thing at an existing site. You know, we talk about our throwaway society. Well, it's bad enough throwing away a styrofoam coffee cup. Really what we're doing is throwing away, you know, existing plaza. And, you know, I thought your point was great, and you know, maybe it is our fault. Maybe we really absolutely can't live with a 20,000 square foot store and we need a 50,000. I was just trying to plot the line in my mind. In 10 years, we'll be back here, and they're going to be coming to us with a 100,000 square foot store, because we all need it, right? I think we really need to take a hard look at some of these things in terms of sustainability. Thank you.
Judy, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My name is Judy Grunberg, W-N-B-E-R-G. Well, first I want to say, after I've lived for 46 years in this community, and this is the first time I have to tell you that I feel like we all have a say in what's going to happen in the future of our lives here. I congratulate everybody, no matter what your passion is in this debate. Also, I have to say that I know many of you think I have made up my mind, but I actually haven't, and I came here to hear more things. I've talked to people on both sides. They all make a whole lot of sense. However, I do want to make one comment about reuse, which I think I can't help because I'm passionate about it. I want to give you an example. I don't know how many of you have been to the co-op market, the real food co-op market. Has anybody been there? Yeah. Okay, I want to say that, you remember what the building was like before that? Yes. So I think it would have been easier if I'd realized, probably would have been easier to tear the whole bloody thing down and start from scratch and do a beautiful architecture. However, that was not our philosophy and not what we wanted to do. We built what I think is a very green building from that place, and I hope the previous owner's not here because it wasn't his fault, really. That building has just been there forever and ever. It was all kinds of things. It was gas stations, it was car repair stations. Many of us will remember those old days. Anyway, I think what we have now is quite a beautiful building. Just about everything in it is, I don't know if it's LEED certified, but we have solar, everything. We have the stuff on the floors that's not toxic, so not that you would want to lick the floors or anything, but anyway, so this was my point. I understand the desire to build something beautiful, to build something new, to build something according to our new principles. But I also know that it is possible to take something that exists and with a great deal of inventiveness and creativity, even with good aesthetic judgment, to make it into something really good. So that is my feeling about it at the moment. I mean, I understand that there are all, I'm not even addressing the legal and engineering things, and as you all know, I've been through quite a lot of the ccSCOOP process myself many years ago, and I know that was 6 years. And our project was not really this big, so I would certainly expect that the company would have to do that. Anyway, that's really all that I have to say, honestly. So.
Your name is?
Lenore Packett, P-A-C-K-E-T. I live on Payne Avenue, and I also have a business on Payne Avenue. I'm in the village, and I'm in the town of Ghent. I don't know whether all of you are aware of the fact that half of Payne Avenue from Elm Street down to the south end is totally cut off during the storms. You cannot literally drive down the street. My business borders the little stream that's coming from Gordon's Pond. Knock on wood, I have not had any water issues, but it was darn close. And it's a little ranch with no basement. So the reality is 2.5 feet, 3 feet of water, and I'm floating. And I find it pretty amazing to think when we look at everything that's happened from Katrina to what we're facing right now, that a real study has not been done on what will happen if this area is paved. And I just am thinking the people who live on Payne Avenue have a stream that runs from Gordon Pond between the houses on Payne Avenue and Hudson Avenue. Everyone's house in that area could now really be sitting in peril. And, you know, might seem like nothing to anyone. And I understand like the whole need of, you know, getting the certain sodas you need and the flour and all of that. Like I get that. But I find it amazing to think within this wetlands, you have found this area. It's like the mirage. Plant a store here. It just seems bizarre to me to think that that is really real, that you found this perfect solid ground to plant a store. When you have water in front and water in the back, and the Corps of Engineers is here, and someone else is here, it just, if you really think about it, it doesn't seem logical. So that's my point. I think you really have to think of the people who could be in just a real situation where we have a bunch of blacktop and a bad storm. Where's the water going to go? And I have 2 properties that might have to pay the price.
Clearly, water is an issue on this site and one that we've got to look at. Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Knudsen. I am the owner of Route 66 Spirits in Chatham. I just want to say there's a couple different things that are of concern to me. Number one, the way that this new plaza is positioned. Our plaza, when you pull into it, as it is now, we would be facing the back of this new Price Chopper. I don't know if any of you have ever driven behind Chatham Plaza. It's not pretty. There's dumpsters, there's loading docks, there's trucks in and out. This is not nice. This is not like something that we would want to see while driving down Route 66, which is what we would see. So that's my first point. My second point is that I know myself, my husband, the other tenants, we're all willing to move at our expense and make room for Price Chopper to be able to get what they need. That means it's coming out of our pocket. It's our expense that we are willing to do to make this happen. So I feel like that's something that it's common sense to keep Price Chopper where it is. Expand. We need a better store. We need a better Price Chopper. I feel that I've seen my business since Hanford is open definitely change because of not necessarily the And again, Lisa commented about the two banks across the street from the plaza. They're empty. They're empty parking lots. This is not beautifying our beautiful little town. This is taking away from it. Adding more concrete, adding more parking, really? I mean, I have never, I've owned this store now almost 8 years. I've never seen our Price Chopper parking lot full, ever. There's always a lot of space. So I just don't totally understand the need for, I'm sorry, I'm not sure about the numbers of how many acres exactly of parking lot, but whatever it is, it's too much. So I guess that's really all that I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, my name is Norman Feinstein. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Hampton Companies, and we own what is referred to as the Chatham Plaza, and we've owned it since 2001. I think it's important that you get a little perspective, a little history on about the time since we've taken over in our relationship with Price Chopper. The discussion about expanding Price Chopper started many, many years ago. And we were approached by Price Chopper, and we went back to them, I'm not sure if it was 2003 or 2004, and we engaged in the discussion. The talking points were try to expand to the left side of the center to go out there. There were some issues with turning radii and trucks getting in and so forth. That discussion continued, and in 2006, we approached them again and submitted a letter. And I think it's important that the record be set straight tonight, because there's rumor, there's innuendo, and there's myth. And the chairman of Price Chopper went so far as to put a letter in the local newspaper smearing the Hampshire companies that had been in business for 90 years. We're fourth generation. We have 200.
Would you address them?
I'm sorry. We have 250 properties in 30 states. Some of our investors are the largest endowments and foundations in the country who invest with us. So we hold our reputation very high. Mr. Golub suggests that Mr. Golub suggests, as the chairman of Price Chopper, that we're bad people. We're unreasonable people. We don't want to negotiate with Price Chopper. I want the record to reflect that we have never, since we've taken over in 2001, ever received a proposal from Price Chopper.
Again, which point of
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even today, we hold ourselves out and willing to sit down with Price Chopper and negotiate. You've heard from the liquor store, Robbie Livonia, pizzeria.
Oh, come on. Come on. Let them talk.
Go ahead. It's easier to play There you go.
I think it's important that you have probably 200 people here.
A lot of people in here.
who really need to understand that we're not bad landlords, we're reasonable people, we have over 1,000 tenants. They're all in here and they'll tell you we provide service. Price Chopper suggests that we don't perform maintenance at the shopping center. The record should reflect that they have a lease and they're responsible for 100% of the maintenance obligations in that center. But Mr. Golub had to take out a full-page ad suggesting that one of the reasons that he has to move next door is because he can't negotiate with people like Hampshire, and we're bad landlords. Well, again, we hold ourselves out. We have made, and this addresses your point, sir, we have made applications to the planning board of Chatham to expand the shopping center to accommodate a 44,000 square foot Price Chopper. You talk about creativity. I am sure that the head of planning is here tonight. He can get creative and find a way to put his products to go from 23,000 to 44,000 in that shopping center. He talks about a little inconvenience, the way the parking is laid out. I'm sure the people here tonight will figure out, since it's the only shopping center in town that you have to park a few feet away from the front door, they'll get there. They talk about the configurations. You've done it before. This is the first time that a store is expanded within an existing footprint. And I'm sure that if you put Mr. Chiswick on the witness stand, as I say, he will agree that that can take place. However, they've avoided the discussions. They've just decided this is where they want to go. And in one of the last meetings, they said, if we can't move next door, we're going to leave. And we said, be our guest. We'll bring somebody else in here who wants to be here and wants to serve the residents of this great village. And I'm happy that there is such a big turnout tonight. And I'm going to fight for everyone here to make sure that we don't have that blight next door. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Lisa Johnson. I'm a village resident, and I went to school here, and my children went to school here. I remember when there was a huge public outcry when the original plaza was being proposed, because people were saying, oh, this is what happens with plazas. You build the plaza, and then a few years later, the store moves out, and you have this abandoned, giant asphalt nightmare. And nobody moves in. And everybody wants a new building all the time. Keep wanting a new building, abandon the old one. Just keep, you know, like smash this and go on to the next site. But, you know, how big of a supermarket do we really need in this village? I mean, I've sat through meetings here talking about the master plan and how the master plan for this area is, you know, to try to preserve some of the rural characteristics of where we live and not to sort of slash and burn your way through. I wonder at, just like those new banks that are just completely empty all the time, those banks felt that they would make a lot of money by putting up new branches here, but the village is not, apparently not big enough to support all of these banks. And now, you know, do we really need a supermarket that's twice the size of the one we have now? Well, maybe it would be convenient when we want to buy a certain thing that they don't have there. But I, for one, am willing to either go and get a different brand of something or occasionally drive. I mean, we buy Chipotle sauce right now. They don't have it at Price Chopper. But I shop at Price Chopper all the time. And then once every few months, we go over to Hannaford's and get like 8 bottles. And I'm willing to do that. You know, I'm not driving over there every week. I wonder why we need a bakery in the supermarket that's twice the size of the bakery we have now. Are they going to put out of business our village bakery? Do we need a drugstore department in the supermarket that's twice or 3 times the size the one is now? Is that going to put our village drugstore out of business? Do we need a produce department that's twice the size of the current one in Price Chopper? Is that going to put out of business the Berry Farm or the food co-op, who are all selling locally produced produce that we're trying to support the local farmers who are producing these things anyway? I like Price Chopper, and I shop there every week. And I don't know how many thousands of dollars I've spent there. And I appreciate them being there, and I'm a loyal customer. But if this happens, I'm not going there anymore. I'll go to Galatia, and I'll go to some other supermarket, because I don't want to see abandoned giant stores here. I don't want to see the other tenants of that plaza go out of business. What are you going to put in a store that size if you can't put a supermarket? You're going to ask boarders to come in? You know, what can go there? Nothing can really go there. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to just use and discard. And I'm sure that Price Chopper will make more money with a new, bigger store. But I, for one, would be really much happier waiting 9 months and supporting them in their effort to renovate the old store and expand it. That's all I have to say.
I'm Jane Mello.
Sorry.
I'm Mello, G-A-M-E-L-L-O. I was in Ghent. I've been here since I was 5. I'm not going to tell you how long that is, but it's a while. I owned a business in Chatham at the time the Price Chopper was coming in originally. And I didn't object to it coming in because I knew we needed it. I knew if I objected,
I'd only be fighting against something that would really come. I was very grateful for a lot of people who sat on the boards and listened like we're doing tonight. However, the one thing I remember, and I remember it distinctly, was that Price Chopper promised they would never abandon that mall. Woo! Never. And you're doing that to us, because I don't care what you say. If you move out, that building is too big for anything else that we can put in this town. And if you, any woman in here will tell you 9 months is nothing. Believe me, swollen ankles and all, we don't care. You're going to give us a product that will keep Chatham and Ghent the way it is today. We will love Price Chopper. But just as Lisa said, if you don't care about us, Hannaford looks good.
I've got a picture here.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Edgar Acevedo. I live on Payne Avenue, and that's in the village of Chatham and in the town of Ghent. And we went around and took some pictures of the area during the hurricane. And this is really my favorite picture. And it is a picture, for those of you who can't see it, of the Trustco Bank underwater with a sign that says, available, retail store leasing. Now the sign is standing up in a pond of water. Did this bank have to go through this process to get there? And it was a village. You want to know something? This isn't, I'm so glad you said that, because my fear is that we're going to turn into, it was the village, it was the town. It was the village, it was the town. Where does that leave me? I live in the village and the town.
No, I know. That's why we're meeting, right?
If you made a promise to stay there, keep your promise. I wrote one little note here, which stands out to me. Chuck, you said we could rip down the store, do without for 9 months. Well, that's real long-range planning. I think that's the best idea you've come up with. I've been flip-flopping back and forth. I hate to stand with these guys or stand with those guys. I'm standing for the community. I'm standing for the people I live with on the street, you know, my neighbors on the street. I'm standing for myself in the home that I've invested in. Rip down the store and stay there. We don't need 4 more acres or 7 more acres of blacktop. We just don't need that. I've got a comprehensive plan that I was reading before I came here. I wish I brought it. There's nothing in that comprehensive plan that talks about more parking lots, bigger stores. We can get our cereal, we can get everything we want, and we can work together.
Jonathan Spencer, and I was just curious, would Price Chopper be willing, if they were asked to move, permitted to move, would they be willing, given its history of philanthropy, be willing to invest in the threat of vacancy for a while, the implications, the other retailers? Would you be willing to invest in something the community might need? A health center, modern library, performing arts. Is there a creative compromise that if you move, that you replace it with something that would keep traffic, foot traffic, and also really be valuable to the community? Thank you.
I moved here about 4 years ago from Los Angeles. If I get homesick, I can go to the outskirts of Hudson. I like the quaintness of this community. I like the feeling of even being here in this room. People are trying to find some solution. I don't want to see another huge parking lot store next door to another store that's abandoned. I've lived through living in a town called Baltimore, or a city called Baltimore, and seeing the character of that town change as people moved away and moved to suburbs and built bigger shopping places and Anyway, I've seen a lot, and I love the quaintness. I love this place.
I kind of just like wrote it out on my phone. One of the people representing Price Chopper said something about bringing new traffic to Chatham, and I've lived here kind of my whole life, and I don't think most of the people in Chatham like would want more traffic. No offense or anything. Price Chopper being on kind of by Hudson Ave, kind of busy street. That's where I'm like moving, and I kind of don't really want to see a lot of traffic outside and their cars.
I'm Sarah Paleshi. Dan Leavenworth.
Jacob Hoops, Max Magonia.
Some of you guys may have seen us outside of Ligonia's this past weekend and last weekend handing out information about this meeting. I personally, I want to speak a little bit about how the Price Chopper treated us over these past couple weekends. And I personally don't want 97 cheeses in my store. I think most of that was fun. But standing in front of Rob Ligonia's shop, you know, this is my community. I don't want to see anybody go down. We were threatened to be arrested on a number of occasions. Also, the police did come once or twice to talk to these guys, and I don't want to support a business that is so hostile towards its residents and really kind of seemingly has no regard for the community's interests.
Hi, Paul Calcagno. A lot of people came to this meeting to get information, and a lot of information you're not getting. The truth of the matter is this. The reason why Price Chopper is looking to move is because it's called preferred developer. The person that's looking to build is Skylar Corporation. They are a preferred developer by Price Chopper. What that means is they got a close relationship with Price Chopper. Price Chopper is moving to move most of their stores to their preferred developer. Unfortunately, Hampshire is not one of their preferred developers. So that's why they're not looking. It has no bearing on them with the town, the village, okay? That store, and I could attest to what happens in that store and what will happen to Rob Ligonia. People could make assumptions, but the fact of the matter is this. My family and I ran LaBella's for 16 years. Our business and our bottom line had to be by the number of people who shopped at that supermarket. If that supermarket was not there, our business would have dropped easily 40%. When Grand Union, which is 10 times as big as Price Chopper is now, was a national branch store. When they went bankrupt, I can't tell you how we felt about that shopping center going down. But thank God that that Price Chopper was designed and built to do $85,000 a week. It actually, at the time the Grand Union collapsed, was doing over $285,000 a week. At the current state, Price Chopper is doing $400,000 plus a week. That store is more profitable than the Hudson store at $60,000. Now this isn't assumptions. This is fact because I feed the managers for 16 years. They told me what they make. Johnny Bell used to come to the store to take the manager to the Hudson River Savings to deposit the money. So this is not about anything other than money. They will never leave this store. If Price Chopper plans to leave, trust me, you will have Guido's, Hannaford, everybody. People assuming that what happened in New Lebanon could happen here. It's not the case. New Lebanon couldn't even support an IGA. Okay? The money that this, see, every town is different. I live in the town of Kinderhook. We have a restaurant there, my family, the Lavellas. On the weekend, the town of Kinderhook's population decreases. On the weekend in Chatham, the population increases. It's a totally different situation. Kinderhook is a bedroom community to Albany. Chatham is a bedroom community to New York City and to other people who come. It's a destination. So, under no means, don't ever be concerned that this supermarket is going to leave. It will never leave. It's just that Hampshire is not a preferred developer. Schuyler, which is owned by the Lerner family and the Golub family, went to high school together. They go golfing together. Their families go on trips every day. Okay? This is a close, which is not wrong. My only issue with them building on that site, I have to be honest with you, that site, when Fairpoint built on it, they built on it, and the rest of that site was basically wetland. Okay? They're buying that property at a discount because it's wetland. It's not commercial. They might say it's zoned because it's in a commercial district, but it wasn't. It's a wetland. Okay? I own the property across the street by the Green County Bank. That's not wet. But trust me, I didn't pay per acre what they're paying per acre. I paid tops commercial. If commercial property is to be developed, it should be developed because that it can be. Not because they have more money, they have more engineers, or they can go somewhere and they deal with DEC. The guy in DEC who's going to let them build there doesn't live in Chatham. Nor does Schuyler, nor does Golub, nobody. Their children don't call here. They're never going to be walked into pizzeria like I used to walk into the pizzeria into the supermarket when one of my delivery drivers is speeding. You know, the delivery driver is speeding? They're not going to go into that supermarket when somebody's going to complain about the flooding. So put things into the true perspective here. This is money. And we pay their money. And we have a right to say what they're going to build, how they're going to build it, and where. It's not up to Hampshire, but he's paying the bill right now on that commercial piece of property, which is, he's paying the taxes. Okay? That other piece, we don't get a dime for the village. Even though a piece of it's in the village, they'll pay you now. They never paid us. You're never going to get it. So the truth of the matter is, they're making a lot of money. They're not leaving. Okay? Schuyler Corporation's a friend. If they can get that to go there, it's another one to put into their endowment for their children. That's the bottom line.